Hello, I'm Michael, and this is Tarot by the Tree. You've joined us near the beginning of a series we're doing on the minor arcana. Today we're working on the Four of Cups. We've done the staffs from Ace to King, and we're doing the fours now, Ace to King as well. We've done the Ace 2 and 3, and today we move to the 4. This is a very interesting card because the tarot cards tells us there's secrets in two ways. One is through the number and illustration on the card. It's meant to communicate what it means. The second way we orient its meaning is to assign it a place on the tree of life. This is done with the numbers. All the number 5 cards, the 5 of cups, the 5 of swords, the 5 of staffs, the 5 of coins, all have to do with the 5th spot on the tree of life. And today it's the 4th spot, and it's the 4th card. All the 4 cards of all 4 suits belong to the same suit, to the same Sephira as this guy. We'll start now. It's the suit of cups. It means happiness, joy, relief from pain, and a degree of contentment. We'll describe the card itself. We see a man in workman's garb, and that's as opposed to royal costume or peasant's rags. He leans against a tree on a knoll. He sits on lush grassland with trees and a distant mountain in the background. We can see by his posture that he seems kind of down, not at all joyous. His eyes are downcast. He has crossed arms and legs. There are 3 cups at his feet, and a 4th cup is held in a hand emerging from a cloud. The secret of the knowledge of the meaning of the tarot cards lies in being able to place them on the tree of life and tree of knowledge. And this is explained fully in the Tarot by the Tree series. Lesson 4 reveals it and goes over it completely. It's the major arcana that lie on the Sephira and do the full explanation. And in a way, the minor Sephira are shadows and echoes of the major arcana. In a reading, I would usually say a major arcana card refers to forces beyond yours. In a sense, they are going to happen. We have to deal with it. The minor arcana are cards that are more on our plane of existence. And in a reading, I would say that these cards are not set in stone. They can be changed. And I know I've said this before, any reading, it's not really telling the future, foretelling the future. It is offering one possible future that's hopefully informed by the reader's subconscious. And that's the, I was going to say the magic of the cards, but it's not. It's the genius of the cards. Back in the days when tarot cards and the whole zodiac system of horoscopes was made, people were masters of language and psychology. And they were able to make a variety of statements, and yet they would all fit together like in a jigsaw puzzle. In a reading, just the card versus the card in the Sephira will come up with 2 totally different ideas, and this is probably the most misread card in the tarot deck. If we look at superficial reading. We'll look at a reading without the benefit of the information that the Tree of Life will give us. Instead, we'll just look at the card. The person appears sad, sullen, disenchanted. But instead, we'll just look at the card. The person appears sad, sullen, disenchanted. We can see by the cups that he has happiness, but still he's not satisfied. He wants more. We can ask ourselves, is he greedy? Maybe he's unappreciative. Some people have things, they take them for granted that people in other places would consider treasures. We talk about the lazy millennials that confuse needs and wants, and they have all these toys, and they consider that those are needs, and they have happiness that 100 years ago people couldn't dream of, and yet they still feel the angst of being a person alive in this time. Is he having trouble keeping up with the Jones? Maybe he has a lot of stuff, but the next door neighbor's stuff is even better. Or is he depressed? Maybe he's just kind of sad. We're going to read the weight description, and we remember that it's because of the Order of the Golden Dawn that I've even been able to make the connection between the tarot and the Tree of Life. And weight, as part of that, was just instrumental in bringing tarot cards and the meanings to us in some sort of a standardized way. So we'll take a look at this card. This is from Weight. A young man is seated under a tree and contemplates 3 cups set on the grass before him. An arm issuing from a cloud offers him another cup. His expression, notwithstanding, is one of discontent with his environment. Divinatory meanings: weariness, disgust, aversion, imaginary vexations, as if the wine of this world had caused satiety only. Another wine, as if a fairy gift, is now offered the wastrel, but he sees no consolation therein. And of course, that is the face value solitary meaning of the card that doesn't have the benefit of its intended meaning and association with the Tree of Life. So let's just look at the Tree of Life. It's the Emperor card. The Emperor is the King of Kings. This is a mighty person. He's just the archetype of what kings should be. He's known as the benevolent ruler. He is on the side of mercy. All people respect him. All people follow him, and kings consolidate under his rule. We start to see this person in a different light. This is actually, this is actually the young captain. This is somebody who will be a leader. He knows he is alone and knows he will be and is, to some extent now, responsible. Everyone wants to celebrate him. But there's a realization in this young man that as he looks at his peers dancing and partying all around him in celebration, he's realizing that these things don't exist on their own. They had to be created and they had to be defended. And he is stepping into that role. This is a realization that some people have, maybe with a promotion, or maybe having children is a really good example, when you suddenly realize this is not about you anymore. Everyone wants to celebrate him. He can no longer only think about his happiness. The realization that leadership is his is a burden. People will follow you when you're a leader, even to their own misfortune. And I think that's what people who assume or have a mantle of leadership thrust onto them come to realize. You no longer have the right to be so bold and take chances. And that's what this young man is contemplating now. Some of the happiness that is offered to him, he can no longer accept because of his duties protecting the three cups at his feet. It is the realization that all options are no longer open to him. This is a card of responsibility. This is a card of delaying happiness until the time is right. A recap of yesterday, we talked a little bit about the Three of Cards, and that has often been considered a sign of pregnancy and birth, especially since its place in the Tree of Life is Bina, the supernal mother. I think we follow along this theme, and we see the next card, the Four of Cups, like impending fatherhood. The idea that you should curtail selfish spending, increase safety precautions, get ready for a new inclusion in your life, remembering that you're on the right-hand pillar and that your nature is all about inclusion. In a reading, you're being asked to think and ponder, be empathetic to the people who will follow you. In a way, selfishness is being squeezed out of you. That's no longer going to be a part of this person's persona. Your personal pleasure must not distract you. He's caring for the three cups on the ground. So that's this card. So different than the initial impression you might have looking at somebody, and you might think he was unappreciative and indolent, and not know that he was the young prince mentally preparing for his role as the emperor. Why don't we turn to some of the questions now?
What kind of happiness is the hand from the cloud offering?
I would think it's the kind of happiness that he was used to, remembering that this is following the Three of Cups celebration. There's a celebration going on, and the next step of the celebration, maybe whatever it would be, dancing till dawn or whatever you can imagine. He's saying, I can no longer do those things. The type of happiness being offered is something that he might have accepted yesterday, but he feels he can't accept today.
Why doesn't he just accept the offering of happiness from the cup and the cloud?
There is some way in his new role, his new responsibility, that accepting happiness would mean not giving sufficient attention to that which is in his care. Some forms of happiness require too much of a person, and he can no longer follow those routes.
What do you mean, some happiness?
Well, let's say his care is the kingdom now, and if it would be a great joy to him to go across the river and develop the orchards there, but it's not harvest time yet. There are things to be done. There's the defense of the southern borders. There are things he can no longer do because there's no one else that will take care of the other things. That has all fallen upon his shoulders.
What is the meaning of the tree behind him?
I think the tree behind him and the knoll it sits on follows the question that was just asked, is that he is becoming like a tree and he is becoming rooted. He is no longer free to go wherever he wants. That person belongs to his youth now, and that's part of responsibility is an absolute lack of mobility.
Makes me think of that song, Freedom.
Yeah.
Means.
The Bobby McGee, that true freedom only occurs when you have nothing left to lose. And that's a real sad comment on freedom, is absolutely true. And in this case, as Jocelyn's saying, he's losing his freedom, but he's got so much responsibility now. So he's sort of the opposite from that line in Bobby McGee.
Why doesn't he wear royal clothing?
This is the moment before perhaps his well, what would you call it?
Coronation.
His coronation or summoning to court or something like that. So this is the moment before you move out of your house and take a job, or the last day of summer vacation. When you're looking at yourself and it seems so free and easy, and you're realizing the next day you have to be a different person.
What do the 3 cups on the ground represent?
That's always happiness and joy. Those are firmly planted and secure, and those are the sources of his joy. Now, it could be family and competition and the building of the realm, perhaps. There are 3 sources of happiness that are firm, and he's taken great joy in them, and he continues to take great joy in them. The difference now is that he has become the caretaker of these sources of joy.
Will he become the emperor one day?
Yes, he'll become the emperor one day. He's on that road. This is the young emperor. And what looked like a person not willing to take responsibility at first is actually a person mentally preparing themselves as a youth for the next step in the responsibility.
What is his mood?
His mood is thoughtful. This is a gradual awakening, and he'll make so many mistakes in his youth trying to live up to the mores that his mind is trying to teach him. So he's very thoughtful now, and he's very young, and he's thinking about the way you should. You think about the worst case scenario and think about the best case scenario, and reality always lands between those 2 things. So his mind is looking at all possibilities, and it's a sudden realization, like a father with new children and the wife is taking care of them, that what he doesn't do doesn't get done. And this is the awakening in his thoughts right now.
Can he refuse becoming the emperor?
No, he can't. Very often it turns out by attrition or whatever, you are the person for this particular job, and you cannot give it away. I suppose you could, but it wouldn't be as good if you did. You are the person you are the best person for this job. In a sense, you've been selected for it, and all you have to do is accept it, and he will accept it because so many people depend on him. There is no question of the people who will follow him. He's got these traits that we might flippantly call charisma, but it's much deeper than that, and it might be the realization that this person will be great one day.
Does this card mean that sometimes we should reject joy?
Absolutely, and we've talked about joy from contentment to ecstasy, and we sort of rule out temporary ecstasy as a kind of joy. So we all have to measure our joys, but if the joy you accept requires you to not take responsibility for what you should, then you have to question whether you should follow that joy. We can no longer be hedonistic. We have to be selective from our of our choices of happiness.
Because our happiness is very dependent on other people's happiness.
Absolutely. And we don't want to get into the trap of pursuing happiness. As we said before, happiness is a byproduct. Happiness comes out of other activities. So that's always something just to keep in mind. When happiness offers itself, what do you have to do to achieve it? If you don't have to do anything to achieve the happiness, it's probably a really superficial thing that you could live without anyway.
And true happiness comes when other people are happy. Like, and
I
you
think
need them.
so, and unless you're a sadist or something, I think that's like most of us are empathetic and we feed off each other's happiness. Yeah.
Final thoughts.
This is a card. It's a great card. It means much more than it seems. And if I had to put a label, it would be it is no longer all about you. And I think that's what this card means. Thanks for listening. See you soon.